Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Zoom Test Kitchen. I'm Jeff Widgren, your host, and I'm glad to be here. We've got kind of a cool day today. As always, the Zoom Test Kitchen is live workshop at that. So if you've come with questions, things that you've learned, things you'd like to get your hands on, I'll pass you some host control temporarily to do that and the whole bit. It's not just a one-way talk from me for sure. So we're gonna have a good time today. Welcome. Take a look at folks who are here. If I go to gallery real quick and say hi to Ray, Frank, David, Mike, Robert, Jesse, Thomas, Andy, Michaela, and Dave. And I know there's more coming, at least two more. And that is Trevor is one. And here, let me pull up a picture actually. Let's find it. Here we go. And I'll share it out real quick. There we go. So with that, we have two special guests, and they're going to play for us. I've offered them a little bit of time. They're doing it from two different locations, live, and they're actually formally performing this tomorrow. So Trevor and I talked about a little bit of rehearsal so that they could feel it out and so forth. But they're leveraging several technologies behind the scenes, such as Far Play and others that help them accomplish this as well, so, and stay, in sync and so forth. So we will await their arrival and look forward to a little bit of music as well. So with that, I want to make sure I get everybody's names correct. So Trevor is Trevor New. If you looked at Trevor New, NEW.com, you'd learn about him. And also Madeline, and that can be spelled a number of ways. My daughter is spelled similar, but not quite the same. Madeline, Madeline Hocking, HOCKING.com. You can learn about her as well. Very talented musicians at that. I think we'll enjoy. But I've asked Trevor to also share the technology behind it as well. That's where some of it certainly aligns with what we do and how we might do it and so forth. They've spent a lot of time with this. So anyways, we also talked about in the invitation working with breakout rooms and digging into them. I mean, it's one of the more popular features of Zoom meetings. It has a high level of popularity. I'll say a medium level of functionality. And you have to be aware of what you can do and what you can't do. And it's always about, when it's the client that you're talking to, is setting the right expectations, right? Keeping them all in check so that you don't last minute tell somebody that, oh, we can't do that. Such as David Paskin, spotlight in a breakout room, right? I know you've dealt with that. You've talked about it, and I don't know if you've really come up with a workaround to make somebody large, but if you got any ideas, share them.
Well, I mean, there are sort of two workarounds, but I just want to start by saying I just finished a full day. We're having parent-teacher conferences in my school, and I was running them via Zoom, and every classroom had a different breakout room. And for all the times that we've said, oh, everyone knows how to use Zoom now. You know what? No one knows how to use Zoom. It's unbelievable.
Yep.
It's just crazy.
You know what
I
everybody
mean,
knows
we're
how to do? They all know how to click on a link and
right.
and get into a Zoom, and
I mean, I
that's
guess
where
we're the crazy ones, truly, but it's just unbelievable. So the two workarounds are number one, sort of a focus mode type of thing where everyone just kills their video except the speaker, and then all you can see is the speaker.
But can I pause you there? Is focus mode available in a breakout room, or are you
Well,
talking
no,
about
that's
a
why I said focus. No,
simulation?
that's right. That's why I said focus mode light. Light,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
Which means you have to instruct everybody to turn off their
Exactly,
camera.
exactly.
Okay.
Or you could. I mean, I wonder if there's. I wonder if you could. For this meeting, have when people enter, their video isn't on, and then just allow your speaker to turn their video on. I guess potentially. But probably the better workaround is to do a screen share of a screen scrape of your talent. So if you screen share in a breakout room, like from Mimo Live or Ecamm Live or OBS or vMix or something, so you're grabbing the you're screen scraping basically the participant, and then you bring them back into the meeting as a screen share, then that will automatically by default for everyone take over their entire screen. We can't hear you.
Hey, Jeff.
Sorry about that. I
See, even
said
Jeff doesn't know how to use Zoom anymore.
I know. Well, I'm trying to get better about this mute button on and off, but I got to work on it. That's for sure. Anyways, I was saying, but the consequence, for every action, there's potential reaction, right? And that would be possibly frame rate, right? If you're just showing to share something, a deck or stills or things like that, but if you need motion, then it's really a matter of testing ahead of time to see if you're going to look horrible in the sense of being way behind and so forth. But yeah, we'll have to test that out and see. We'll give it a shot. But I get asked a lot about breakout rooms, and Betsy Sabatini. Can't remember the group. It's an expert group for Zoom. But anyway, she says, hey, if you can master breakout rooms, Zoom. And it's like it's kind of true,
I'll tell you
It's
another big problem that's connected to that, Jeff, about mastering breakout rooms is I had I'm just everything that happened today is fresh in my mind. So this is I'm so glad that you're
Sure.
talking about this today. So I had all these breakout rooms set up. I was sitting in the main meeting, and I just kept my teachers in their rooms, and I would push the different people to each room, and then I would broadcast, 5 minutes left and whatever. I did not kick the parents out at the end of their session. I would just add the new parents, and if they weren't done, then they should just get done quick. But what happened it happened a few times, and it was so frustrating, is a parent would jump into the breakout room, or I would push them in rather. They would see that there was another parent there, and then they would come back out. And when they come back out, I can't put them back in again.
Yep.
You have to move them to another breakout. You can't even move them back into the main session. You have to move them into another breakout room and then move them into the new breakout room. It's just a disaster. That to me is a huge failure of breakout rooms.
Yeah, and
I didn't read the article, but there was a Zoom article just in the last few days pontificating about how parent-teacher meetings were so much easier now with Zoom. I'm going to search for that and see if I can't throw it up to us. But clearly, they don't have the life experiences that David.
Mm-hmm. Well, and what comes along with all that is that not everybody's going to run a parent teacher conference via breakout rooms the same way, right? They may do their best to keep it very, private and exclusive, or they may leave the door open, like David explained, right? So people can come, kind of like using your personal ID to fire up a meeting. people can just pop in, even if they got your PMI number 6 months ago. They can just pop in, and maybe that's the way to go. Who knows? But needless to say, it's not quite just black and white, because where breakout rooms are just the answer. Not that they can't do the job, but I think they still
But I
need
think what
some
you
work.
said, I think what you said earlier, Jeff, though, is really the key, is that they're one of the most popular features, and they're tremendously powerful. And as you said, they have tremendous limitations. And these aren't limitations that, look, I don't know the first darn thing about coding any of this stuff, but if they can do this for the real meeting, one might think that they could apply that same technologies to the breakout room, and just wish they would.
Yeah.
So
Well,
Jason is,
yeah.
my audio is
Go
out
ahead.
of sync. Sorry, Robert. My audio is always out of sync. I don't know what to do about that. Jason is just asking, what happens when you turn off allowed to return at any time? Good question. So when I opened the breakout rooms, I did turn that on. Maybe I shouldn't have. That's a really good question.
Yeah. We'll go through. Well, I think I've got a little bit of limited, not limited as in super short, but sometimes the old Zoom test kitchen is can go long, and it's part of the fun. But today I'll have to drop by 5, which is not an early departure, but sometimes it can get there. But I don't mind, I can hand it over to somebody if it carries on. The only reason I mention that is because testing breakout rooms, I promise you, it can take a long time. I mean, there are so many scenarios. When you go there, how about that share theory that David was talking about? When you go there with your camera off, will it be off when you get there? When you go there with your camera on, can you send them there and have them off? What about the mute status? What about permissions? I mean, what you want them to be able to do what? And can you give them those permissions while they're there? So let's say, hey, David, you and I are gonna go run this breakout room, and I want you to record while you're there. I'll take care of this or that. You take care of the record. And can you just record when you get there, or is there some prep that you have to be aware of? And these are all things, I'm not going to throw the answers out right now, but they're all things that I know frustrate me. And but at the same time, we're not bashing Zoom. We wish for Zoom to continue to develop as they are, but most of all, what we do in the Zoom test kitchen is identify the behavior so that we go into the next project well prepared. That's it. I mean, you can't change it overnight, and so we get well prepared, understanding the behaviors. And sometimes, I mean, how many of you have had Jason, I'm just going to pick on you. Have you ever had I'll call it a conversation, but an argumentative conversation, even if it's just momentary? It's like, no, it does that. And you go, no, it doesn't. And then you and this person you're talking to, you go walk through it, and they realize, no, I guess it doesn't. You were right. I mean, it happens a lot. It's sometimes it's assumptive, sometimes it's just bad memory, and I totally guilty of that. But it's one of those things where it really does take time, and new features come about often, right? And so I will often go in and test something out, even though 6 months ago I could have confidently stated it absolutely won't do it that way. I'll often, if I know that I'm going to stand on information, but that information is old, then I'll go test it first before I go stand on that stool, if you will, because things do continue to improve a lot. And so I always, kind of figure these things out, and then and then keep my fingers crossed in the meantime. Thank you for the meters, by the way, because I can see that I'm low.
And Jeff, just to make you aware, your guests are now coming into the meeting.
Oh, good. All right. Yeah. See that. Perfect. Well, we'll find out if they need some special permissions, and we'll go from there. Hey, Trevor, how are you?
Great. How are you?
Very good. I've introduced Madeline and Trevor by name and picture. Here, I'll even show you your picture. Okay, we'll do it again. This is what everybody who was here, some have arrived since, but this is who they know was coming. Do they look like the same people? They do. Looking good. Anyways, I kind of tried to squeeze that in, and I apologize. I didn't get to kind of announce in the invitation. I've just run out of time, but I've set it up. Trevor and Madeline. Madeline, I haven't spoken to you, so welcome. Glad to have you.
Can you give
here.
Trevor ISO co-host, please?
Yep. Trevor.
We're going to have to, Trevor, we're going to have to stop the record.
Yeah.
The cloud record.
Oh, okay.
Trevor ISO has that. And Trevor, I'm going to stop the cloud record, which I only run for backup purposes anyways. I rarely use it. So I'm going to bounce that. If you'll go ahead and bounce your enable on ISO. Let's see. There we go. Tell me when you're on. You're on. Okay. I'll turn that back on. There we go. Okay.
Are we going to hear behind the scenes what it takes to get this far?
Yeah. So I've asked Trevor, and quite frankly, the reason I agreed to have them come in play is not just because some of us really love music, but is because of the technology that they have implemented to make this happen. So why don't we first start with Trevor? You are, if I'm not mistaken, you're out of the New York area?
New York and New Jersey, yes. Right now I'm in New York.
And how about Madeline?
I'm in, wait, maybe that's better. I'll talk close to my mic. I'm in Washington Heights, New York. Yeah.
Okay, very good. So how many miles?
Jeff, the mic that she's using is in her violin, right?
That's right.
Is that what we just saw? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a clip-on.
That's great.
Yeah, I'll just hold it like this so I can. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. How many miles or how much time? Well, let's go miles, because miles to time in New York may not be the same all over the country.
I think we're probably in the 130 miles away right now.
Okay. All right.
So I'm pretty far upstate, and Madeline's in Manhattan.
Cool. So we have. Are they two violas or one violin and one viola?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one violin, one viola, and some electronics, and kind of using some reverb and things. We can kind of explore, kind of shaping the sound as it passes from all the different places. Yeah.
Very good. David, can I ask you to switch this portion of the show for sure? That would be great. And then I'll just give some time to Trevor and or Madeline, however you two want to kick this off, as far as what is it that you're doing. I did mention that you're performing live tomorrow, right? Officially. And it's a remote performance. It's not your first remote performance. I saw that you've been building on this and building on it and perfecting it and so forth. But but kind of, let us, share with us where it came about. I wrote you, Trevor. There's a lot of people in this meeting right now very familiar with Andy Carluccio, who developed and created Zoom OSC and Zoom ISO when he created, liminal entertainment technologies. And he, when we met him, he was a recent graduate of University of Virginia, and his two focuses were technology and theater. And then COVID hit. And when COVID hit, that's when he realized he's got to do something for his friends who had no more theater, right? And he's been deeply involved in not only creating the technology, but producing shows much like this, in the sense as creative as you can be online, in a Zoom meeting and so forth. So you're leveraging one of our favorite people's technology. And we've also, if you tune into office hours, we also have, I know at least twice, correct me if I'm wrong on twice, as far as the FarPlay product that's been developed as well. He's been a guest on office hours and has demoed that. So some great and recognizable tech as well. So I think it's pretty neat at that. Why don't you go and take it, Trevor and Madeline, give us a setup. Let us know production wise if you need or want anything more than a dual spotlight or whatnot, but let's run with it.
Great, thanks so much, Jeff, and it's really great to be here. This sort of journey to try to figure out all these different ways of connecting through sound and visuals was I felt it was a somewhat solitary thing in some ways, I think, for a lot of people. So, Madeline was kind of doing her own thing. I was doing my own thing. And then we ended up meeting at a festival that was happening virtually. It's called Next Fest with Peter Askim. And, we put together like a jam session and ended up reconnecting later. Often I find with the audio side of things without the visuals is you're kind of taking almost like a shot in the dark, essentially. Like if you connect to a public server, you don't see anybody. So you're kind of like, what's going on here? Are we going to be able to play? Is there anybody out there? So, moving over to Zoom ISO and Zoom to try to, create a visual component to go with that has made a massive difference, especially with all of the updates and the features that have been made available. Have really, even just in the last 2 months, have completely changed how I've tried to approach this. So yeah, maybe we could just start with like a little demo with some sound and things. Everybody hearing me okay? Oh, sorry.
All of our responses were muted. Yes.
Jeff, can you please make my ISO machine co-host?
Yeah. There you go.
Great. And you can, oh, great. Awesome. Why don't, see if we can do this. Great. Can you hear me okay? Everything's doing okay sound-wise?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Yep. Well, you know what, Trevor? See the meters, the WLM meters feed that's up there. If you shoot for -24, -22, somewhere right in that range, for either voice or instrument, that you use that as a guide.
Okay, I'm coming in a little hot, right? Let's see. All right. Am I coming in a little soft? Okay.
It's weighted, Trevor, so you've got to put a couple of sentences together to get some consistency.
Oh, okay. Let's see. So here I am testing, bringing the sound.
You're a little low.
A little low. Okay. Bump it up a little bit more. Let's see how that's doing. Still going. And I think I'm starting to hit around there. Okay, great. And hopefully it doesn't change too much when we add the instruments. But
hey, Trevor, before you start playing, can you talk? So I was gonna double spotlight you, but you're doing that already. Can you tell us just what's the back end of your system there?
Yeah, so I'm right now my sound is going into Ableton Live, and then I'm using a Army UFX Plus to take the sound from Madeline sounds from FarPlay, send that into Zoom as well as Ableton, which will allow me to affect reverbs and things like that. And then I'm using Zoom ISO on a 14-inch MacBook Pro M1, and then I'm sending that via HDMI into Isadora, and I have a series of different effects and things, ability to switch things back and forth. I think I actually probably want to go like this, right? So we're on the right side of things, and and there's some interactive pieces as well where I believe we can do drawings and things. Let's see here. Yeah, we're based on movement and things, we can kind of add that functionality, and then I can actually have audience members do that as well. So kind of trying to create like something inclusive visually, which also shapes the sounds and things that we make. Like if I go, let me see, I'll try this one more time. Should be getting a filter there from that, and yeah. Let's see.
Getting exciting.
Yeah. But yeah, so maybe we can play a little bit and then talk a little bit about how visuals and things are working. How there's a crossover between that and the music. So yeah, we'll start with some Mozart and then go into something a little more improvised and also reactive too. So. All right.
All right, ready?
Just one.
Everybody else can mute. Yeah, it looks like we're good there.
All right, and Madeline, can I hear you play just a note or two just to
yeah.
check the level? All right, let's start right from the top.
All right. Cool.
Thanks so much.
Can you talk a little bit about how you were hearing each other and the latency and all that other good stuff?
Well, let's see. I think for myself, it feels very much happening like right on time. Madeline, what do you think? How's that feeling
Yeah,
for
I
you?
think so. Yeah, I mean, I'm using Ethernet as well, so that definitely helps for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think like there's like a tiny bit of like visually in the Zoom meeting, like you're maybe like, a quarter of a second behind what I hear, but I think other than that, like everything I hear, I can play along with and feel like it's happening in real time in a way I can predict and stuff. So I think I think it's working well.
Are
Yeah,
you listening through a Zoom meeting, or you have a separate audio?
Oh yeah, we're using FarPlay for our audio.
Yeah.
And
And if I'm going to guess, like, I don't see Madeline having a microphone in this meeting. So I'm assuming Madeline's microphone is going to Trevor, and you're the mix, if you will, and you're sending the results into the meeting. That's what we're hearing. Is that correct?
Right. And then
Cool.
Madeline's also hearing that way as well.
So you're returning that to her. Well, you're returning that to her through Zoom or FarPlay?
Through FarPlay.
Okay. Yeah. So she gets a little more live feed that way than if she were to monitor it through the Zoom result, right?
Right.
Cool. Very cool. Pretty amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, good stuff. Trevor, your virtual background works a lot better than Madeline's, by the way.
How's that?
Just need a little more light for the violin so that it doesn't keep canceling that out is all. But yeah, that you have a shadow. Yeah. Yeah, I think you're missing some, well, I mean, sometimes it's backlight, but in this case, with it being, it's interesting that it keeps taking it out because it's dark like your dress, but it's canceling it out, but it's not doing that to your clothing. So interesting. So, yeah.
I think I see a question about how many computers to run this. I kind of a funny thing. I'm probably over prepared for some of these things, and that way this setup is very very large for like running like an orchestra potentially, like being in person and then running. I've done this with like what is that, nine clients essentially through Clean Feed, and then an in-person orchestra, and then trying to route different spaces, which our RME gear has been really essential for. But you can do this with one computer and using loopback, which I have actually learned a lot about from here and office hours, kind of checking things out that way.
Good stuff.
So
well, we're ready for more. Are you ready for more?
Yeah, that sounds great.
That'd be awesome. Very enjoyable.
Let me see. So one thing, I'm gonna scoot over to maybe some of the visual interactive things that I do with this system as kind of our maybe last bit here. I've been working with the music therapy department of Montclair State, and recently Madeline and I were running the American Music Therapy Association symposium at like a evening activity where we try to interact with anybody on Zoom. Also had people connected to Clean Feed, and which is it's not definitely not as low latency as FarPlay, but it runs on like a phone or something like that. It's a little bit more accessible to various internet connections. But I'm just going to hop over to this drawing thing, kind of taking this sort of drawing section of things and creating it, like, so I can take like through Zoom ISO and using Isadora, like I can have let's see, Madeline. Let me see if I can. Do you want to try just drawing a little bit? You can like move your hand around.
Oh yeah, sure. Wait one second. Oh wait. Also, I might need to take my background.
Oh, you might be canceling out because of the background
No,
a little bit.
my background. Just a lot of percussion equipment in the
But
background.
yeah, maybe
Yeah, let's see.
if we have any volunteers to try out the drawing. Let's see. I can't really see the. Oh, Frank. Let's see.
Go for it, David.
Or David. Okay.
Oh, I'm going for it. I'm an artist.
So you can be tracing all of these different things, and at the same time, I've been doing a little bit of work on this. So maybe my MIDI stuff is doing something funny, but this also would activate a series of filters.
So the drawing can bend your music as well at the same time. Is that where it's heading? Oh,
yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, maybe what I can do, I'll just switch my Isadora project real fast. Shouldn't mess with anything. And there we go. And I should be back to normal. Yeah, and so let's try that one more time. If you want to give that one more shot, if you move your hand around, you'll actually trigger a synthesizer. Left to right creates the range, and then as I'm playing. And if we want, we can actually do this as a group as well. So I have a
That is
here.
crazy.
There we go. Caught you. Sorry. Thank you. So we can even do this as a group as well. So I have a series, a sort of list, sort of parsing thing that will go through and grab every group of, say, like 8 people. That goes
now,
through,
is that based on feeds coming out of ISO? Is that what
Yes.
it's reading? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so automatically grabbing it. I have it going in order, but it can be randomized. So now everybody who's visible right now can do the exact same thing. So if you move, the little, it's like, I think of it as like Tinkerbell. It'll actually come over to you. So whoever moves the most. And then if we turn on this filter, you can actually see your movement, right? Did that, yeah, there it goes. And my favorite thing, and something I've been working on for a little bit, is making it so that now if everybody's there, we can actually merge into one sort of figure. So kind of pulling everybody together. So some of the activities, and this is, again, because this is going through Zoom ISO, I know that this is actually, it's all coming through really well. These activities where it was like, make yourselves into a flock of birds, for example, or make a tree, kind of doing that from the, with music therapy people, and kind of going basically going in and out. So this is just sort of endless in that way, and then going on to the next group of 8 people. And it all controls the sound of the performers as well, and anybody who I keep turning down the synth, but yeah, you'll be able to play it by any sort of movement when that's up. But yeah,
so we could sit out here and create brand new music together.
Exactly.
Cool.
Yeah, idea being that any of these things can be with Ableton. I often will record, like I'll start my loop and I'll actually loop everything that's coming in, and then at the end push it back. And I have a system that actually, for example, like if we play with that again for a moment, I can actually play that back as like a separate art piece, essentially, where it will record all of our movements. So if I go, for example, like I'm in here, I'm doing this, right? Maybe I'll add the synthesizer and everything like that. All this is happening. We get like a little bit of the atmospheric stuff. And then even things from Zoom, right? And then at the end of this, I can actually go back. And I'll get rid of myself. I'll hit play, and this will play back on its own, essentially, with this drawing thing. So these are the movements that I made before, and this is kind of generating its own thing. Oh, sorry, I hit like the rope. So this is what I just drew just a moment ago. And it's coming back from essentially. So, yeah.
Too cool.
So,
can you print that piece that gets created?
Oh, yeah. Usually you have an HDMI recorder going that captures all the stuff that goes through Isadora in terms of the drawing. So for activities with students or really just any sort of art making, it's easy to recall everything and make like a new piece.
Very, very cool. Yeah, I can see. I mean, I could see adults and kids alike just mesmerized for hours, and never want to stop on that creative side. That's awesome. Robert Sababadi out of Poland says, "I'm speechless. My mind is overwhelmed, stoned and full."
Oh, that's great.
Trevor, how long did it take you to get to this position that you're at? What was your path and timeline?
I guess for a while I was trying to do just audio only in terms of this project, or in terms of just like music and
in terms of getting you to the creative point that you're at now.
So see, I started as a classical player. It's how Madeline and I met. We have lots of classical stuff, and then started experimenting with electronics and things. Working with I worked with Todd. If Todd Reynolds,
sure,
we've both worked with Todd.
But there was a little Todd in this.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is, it's like really, yeah. I guess I don't need to say a whole lot there. It was extremely helpful, and kind of it's an odd thing to do these things, like as it goes, especially if you're a classical player, you're getting everything's sort of drilled into you. It's like, you must do this way.
Yeah.
So I would say the first thing was being able to break the mold comfortably, and then finding people to play with. So like I'm really fortunate that like Madeline is here and up for playing, and we're both super comfortable with doing this, which is a huge part of making it possible to do, because we could feel like, oh, maybe we're like fudging something or something like that, or this must be this way, this arpeggio should be this inversion or something like that. So flexibility, and then I actually grew up messing with computers as a hobby. So and I saw Andy's videos on Zoom ISO, and then found Isadora actually that way. And I've worked with Max MSP quite a bit, and I hadn't heard of Zoom ISO or Isadora, and I was kind of shocked. It was like, wow, so you can just connect everything, and then it works, like as that goes. And it's grown so much since I started using both of these softwares, which was Zoom ISO, the first version we used for my piece with the American Composers Orchestra, which was like a really heavy lift for me at the time. But that was where it was at the Domena Center in Manhattan, and then we had a quartet in Brooklyn, 2 quartets in London, and then 6 soloists around the world going into a live stream, having a virtual audience, and then audiences in those different locations. Then that routing was being done through my desktop through a virtual routing software. I used AudioLink Pro, if anybody is familiar with that, at one point, and then something called Synchronous Audio Router, which worked great, sound great, but was terrifying to use because if anything updated, it would just be completely wiped clean. So that happened 3 days before the show, and then I went through and I locked off every single thing and fixed. Yeah, it was a learning experience for that. So I guess getting here with these things, lots of support. So from people while we were trying to figure out how to do all this stuff.
How is the response as far as, I mean, I could say, hey, our ticket sales, but how's the audience response, when they hear about a performance like this that's coming up and so forth? I mean, is there high intrigue? Is there lots of education about it before they'll show up, or what's that dynamic out there?
I think when, so I would say maybe my strength is not in promotions necessarily. So I don't know if I have a large enough sample. Let's say that was that sample size, right? That's the thing to know for sure. But I know from audience interaction, when people are on Zoom or in person, because again, all of this can be done through this drawing can happen kind of layered through, like if you think of everything as layers, you can have people who are where I am and people where Madeline are and have that work exactly the same way. It really doesn't, matter where you are. Everybody's very excited. I feel like it's like almost 100%, like this is really cool when everything's working. And in terms of describing like how this works, I find that to be very difficult. Like in the this is what the experience might be, because it's tough to record what it's actually like. It would be, you'd want to a camera in every location essentially to see the back end of things.
I just feel like this is probably, I mean, this is the finest example of a virtual corporate interactive event, and that I mean, what audience member, wouldn't want to participate, right? And even while those 8 are participating actively, all the others get to, see it live and wait their turn if they want to, I mean, it's just like, it's absolutely, I mean, out of all the interactive type, things, Zoom apps and so forth, this one is just miles above it.
Jeff, can I jump in and offer a thought?
You bet.
I just wanted to say that movement like that's not my shtick. like I'm not a dancer. But what's so powerful about what just happened is that I have felt for a long time that for digital events to really work, the people who are participating need to know that we know that they're there. It needs to matter that they're there, whether we acknowledge them through chat or through video or through voice or through whatever. And what's so cool about this is that I was, as just a participant, I was directly affecting something that everyone experienced. And all of a sudden, it really mattered that I was here because I had a certain level of responsibility for creating the experience. It was very, very cool. Very, very cool.
And it wasn't scripted or pre-planned, and you had no idea you were going to be a part of it, which I think is a real big added element as well. And you admittedly said, that's not my thing, but you were doing it, you know? That's super cool. Yeah, good stuff. Well, you want to send us off, you two, with a masterful piece, and Andy
we've got
actually
one question.
Has a question. Yeah.
Oh, hey, beautiful performance. First of all, thank you. And I just have a couple of questions. Well, first of all, I do know a music therapist in the Brooklyn area, Manhattan area. I'm just curious if you know her. Her name's Katie Down, and she's also a modern music performer. Just a shot in the dark.
Oh, I don't think so.
Okay, so that was one. Two is, do you when you are doing these concerts where there's a lot of interaction, do you do sync tests beforehand, or is that just like there's too many paths to sync? A clap test, in other words, for audio and video.
Oh, not I don't actually. In terms of syncing, like my own video and everything to the sound, I have a pretty predictable level of, like, my latency myself is very, very low, and then I have a very predictable latency on my end, coming through my camera. Which I actually have not adjusted for. If you're,
I'm an audio guy, so I see this stuff, and it does seem like audio is leading video a little bit, which means you can fix it. If it's the other way around, you can't, obviously, or it's really hard to. I mean, I'm not sure if there's tools for that, but yeah. But I was just curious. And for this stuff, you're playing very legato passages and things like that, so we don't see it. I don't think we see it between what's going on here. Yeah. The only other thing I'd say is that, and this is an aesthetic choice. I realize that because you're two string players, if I were mixing, I would pan you slightly left and right, because I think that would be maybe a better experience for the audience. And I did listen to it in stereo while you guys were playing. I listened to it on 2 different sets of speakers and a pair of headphones. And I was just thinking, yeah, maybe. And I'm not even talking about a heavy pan, maybe like 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock, something like that. Yeah. But something to try. You may try it and go, not really helping. Or maybe it would.
I think that would be extremely helpful. Like,
okay.
I'm thinking that. So I really appreciate that.
Oh, sure.
And and actually matching the audio and the video would be a very easy thing to do. I should definitely do that. I think, I mean now, that adds to the that sort of the immediacy of that feeling, I think, which is, I don't know, I guess it's hard to describe. I'm sure people can feel that too.
Yeah, it's those little subtle things that add up that even draw you're drawing your audience in really well with what you're playing and all that. But just those little things, I think, add up. Yeah. But bravo, really just wonderful.
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate it.
Harshid is asking in the chat if you could tell us about the mics that you're each using.
Let's see, Madeline, do you want to?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I'm using a DPA 4099. And yeah, then I have a very minimalistic interface. It's the Scarlett Solo. So yeah, but that's my setup. And yeah, this is a great mic. I really like. It's super portable. Yeah, it and doesn't get in the way when I'm playing or anything. And yeah, I love it. So yeah.
Yeah, that's I also use that mic pretty frequently. I used to use that a lot for what we're doing right now. I'm using a SM7B for speaking, just so that I usually, if I'm calling things out, like trying to guide people through whichever thing we're doing, it's very easy to hear and talk back and all of that. And on my instrument, I'm actually using a Schertler Stat V pickup. So kind of blending the mic sound with this, and what was it? I was using a TLM 103 Neumann at 1.2, but I find that the just the focus sound that I get from the 7B with the pickup and going into the various effects ends up being a lot cleaner.
Hey, real quick, since Madeline, you're using a mic and you're using a pickup, Trevor, I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about the why you made those choices. Why for one instrument? I mean, they're the same instrument, yes? They're both violins?
Violin and viola,
Violin
but similar.
and viola, yeah.
Okay, so is there a reason why you might use a mic on one and a pickup on another?
Well, actually, I've been looking into getting a pickup because, so I play with a lot of percussionists. As you can see, I'm in a percussion sort of studio right now. And the mic does pick up, if I'm performing with them, it'll pick up some of their sounds, into my channel. So that's sometimes not super ideal. So I've been trying to, a pickup kind of gives you a more isolated, I guess, sonic experience. Just the violin will come through the violin channel and it won't pick up any other, or, it's less likely to pick up stuff happening around you. So that's definitely one difference I can think of. Yeah, Trevor, you probably know like way more than me. But yeah, that's, I think there's advantages to both. Yeah, I thought this was kind of a good happy medium for now for me. It's kind of like a close, it's not like a, room mic that can kind of pick up everything. It's close enough to my violin that I can kind of have some control, but also it's not, it's a good blend, I think, for me right now. Yeah.
Both sound wonderful. So just as listening in, I had to put them on the cans and forget the phone. It sounds wonderful. So thank you so much.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. For me, my choice of pickup, I bought this after buying a DPA, and it was actually Todd recommended this pickup.
I think he recommended that one to me too.
Yeah,
actually,
it comes with, not for cheap, but it comes with a preamp that takes the pickup sound, and I can the Schertler preamp will take almost any sound and make it just like give it like an acoustic quality, or bring the acoustic qualities out of the signal. So I had a feedback issue, so I was running all of these things, and I had like a overdrive pedal, and I guess learning the hard way, I booked like my first solo show, trying to play, is using Ableton and a looping Mobius looper, really cool looper, and was warming up, and I hit that drive pedal, and it was so loud, like the feedback was so loud that it almost brought me to the floor, because I had all the monitors and things, and it was at Pete's Candy Store. A lot of films shot there these days, but yeah, so that the pickup situation was a necessity for getting that clean sound, and it's the closest I think to a mic sound. I also, little sort of trick that I like to use is I throw a little convolution reverb, like a very fast one, in my signal path for my viola, and actually, I don't know if actually adds it makes it just sound a lot better to me if anybody's working with a string pickup. it can do that.
Does that preamp do any mic modeling, or is it just doing some other things?
I'm not totally sure. It's just it's pretty much like an in and out. It just has a volume. You can kind of see that. It just has a volume knob on it, and it's there, specifically made for strings preamp, and they don't really tell you a whole lot about it. There's a lot inside of it though.
Yeah, it sounds great. I mean, my brother-in-law has been experimenting because he's a violin player, and with IR settings, impulse response settings, to imitate a more microphone sound.
It works great in I feel like that makes more of a difference, honestly, even than my preamp. I was kind of shocked for first time, but okay.
Jeff, Robert has a great question in the chat if you want to.
Yeah, says Trevor, does having a pickup allow you to have a mic active on Zoom and the pickup active on FarPlay at the same time?
So I have that happening. The pickup, you could. So I think maybe referring to, like, could I be speaking on one side and then have the pickup routed into a separate space, essentially? Yes, like I can talk and the pickup will not pick up my voice unless I'm extremely loud, or if I'm using distortion. If using distortion, you can usually hear everything in the room. But with this right now, I'm currently going into Zoom and into FarPlay equally with both sources.
Very good. Well, if everybody else is ready, I'm certainly ready to have you play us out. Okay. Whatever you've got prepared, that'd be great. Thanks so much for coming in and sharing the tech and, of course, the music as well. It's absolutely gorgeous and fun and extremely creative as well. So looking forward to what you've got for us here.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, and hope I see some of you tomorrow. We have our show and show.
Yeah, you know what, and before you leave the meeting, absolutely drop a link to the site, to the concert, and the ticketing on that and so forth, the schedule, and we'll not only use it ourselves, but I'll help continue to spread the word tonight on some of the other forums. So please, I've got it, but if I miss it, I just want to make sure if you put it in, I know it's 100% accurate. So we'll go from there. But all right, well, let's do it.
Yeah, thanks so much. Thanks so much.
It's so fun. Thanks for having us.
Jeff, we can't hear you.
I dialed down my fader, and I don't usually do that, but I put you guys out of my speakers so my wife could hear you.
Oh, cool.
All right, so I was putting that link out there. That's Facebook. Hang on, let me get the registration. It's a Zoom registration link.
Right.
Okay. There in the chat, everybody, is the Zoom registration link. Is there a cost associated to it?
We have a suggested donation, but it's free to register and join, and yeah, it's kind of like the more the merrier kind of thing.
Yeah, you bet. So 7:30 tomorrow night, Eastern time.
Right.
And how much time does one need to carve out so that they can enjoy the whole thing?
About an hour. Yeah, we're gonna have like a little jam at the end that might run a little bit longer.
Cool.
And yeah.
Very cool. Well,
can I ask just a quick question? I hope, Trevor, what's next?
Oh, let's see. So this system that I'm working on is going to be used for a show in June, again with the American Composers Orchestra, and for Make Music New York and the various chapters. We're kind of talking with them right now about possibly doing something there. I am designing like trying to make something of a hub. So I have this available for performance kind of on my end, but also I'm trying to make it something that could be almost server based so that anybody coming into a meeting will be able to be a part of that. So that's definitely taking a little bit of work. And then I also, as a part of that will likely become some sort of program that music therapists, really anybody could use for their own use, to be able to do some of these visual effects through Isadora potentially. And I'm working on, I don't have a lot of coding chops, but working on trying to design something that I can make that people can use for this. So making this available to other people is kind of a big step. Yeah.
Sorry about that. I was putting both of your addresses out there in the chat as well, so people can learn more about you and get to, I know there were several video clips out there as well that you could play back. So, gosh, thoroughly enjoyable. So many thoughts, so many opportunities, so many applications, and really glad that you asked. I regret trying to limit you to 15 minutes, just so everybody knows. I asked him if we could do this in about 15 minutes, and I have absolutely zero issue with it being an hour and 15 minutes later. I mean, it was just so thoroughly enjoyable, and so many thoughts, very thought-provoking in the sense of where it can be applied and how, and people I can talk to and companies I can talk to. I mean, there's been, I've had, we've done online corporate events with like dueling pianos and magicians and, things like that. I mean, they are entertaining, to a degree for a little while, but the interactive part is challenging, to truly be interactive. This is by far the most interactive example I've ever seen, truly, so job well done. All your work, all your efforts, the results. I mean, just fascinating. So thanks for coming in. Please come back anytime, and in the Zoom Test Kitchen, if there's anything we can help or things you can share that you've learned in all your research as well. But would certainly love to see you again. And thanks again. Have a great weekend. I will see you. I'm registered. I know David said he's registered. So others, if you have the time and desire, get registered and let's support Madeline and Trevor.
Thanks so much.
Hey, Jeff, before Madeline goes, Madeline,
Sure.
can I offer you one thought?
Oh yeah, for sure.
I will want to encourage you to not use your virtual background. I don't care what your background looks like, but I want to see you and your violin and the magic that you're creating. And you were kind of dipping in and out before, so I'm so glad you turned that off.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm planning. We have I live with a percussionist, and he's like moving all his stuff around right now. So I was sort of trying to spare you all the. Well, actually, it's not too bad though. It's just you just got the vibraphone here, so that's actually fine. But yeah, the tomorrow's show will be in the living room where there's not a bunch of,
Cool.
It'll be great. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, natural, real backgrounds are awesome. We're a group that. We don't love them anyways, but when I'm with David in the sense that I didn't know initially whether it was part of the effects or just a virtual background not working well. And then I realized fairly quickly that it was just, the virtual background, which, they do an amazing job, but there's just certain combinations that, didn't work well on the body of the instrument. So, yeah, I agree. Music was fascinating. Technology, absolutely fascinating. And thanks again. And we will see you tomorrow evening.
Great. Yeah, thank you so much.
So did you say you're going to get interactive tomorrow night? Like after you're finished, you'll talk and chat with the audience and all that? Is that part of it?
I think we're going to be talking kind of as we go to each thing, kind of starting from more traditional, some Mozart and things, and then moving to more modern as we go, and talking a little bit about how it works for us and what to think about artistically.
So is it a meeting or a webinar?
I have it set up as a meeting.
Okay. And do you have a Zoom moderator that's managing that so you can focus on your performance, or do you take all that on?
Generally end up taking that.
All right. Well, you've got a group here that certainly can if you need some help. I mean, I'd be first to raise my hand if you wanted just somebody to babysit, just the core piece of the meeting. But outside of that, there's lots of talent here as well. We love supporting the arts.
Really appreciate that. I'll probably take you up on that.
You bet. Well, enjoy. Thanks for swinging by and sharing with us your talents and all your creativity, far beyond just the music even. And look forward to tomorrow evening, you guys.
Thank you so much.
So much.
You're welcome. Take care.
You're welcome to stay. You don't have to leave, but we're gonna go study breakout rooms. As exciting as that sounds. All right. Well, there you go.
In the chat, I don't know if somebody wants to.
What's that?
A question in the chat about the sound. Would it be useful to encourage users to turn on original sound for musicians, especially musicians?
Yeah. I mean, my response is original sound is only for the sender, right? And so I'm assuming Trevor had your original sound on so that Zoom kind of stopped doing what it commonly does for the meeting. But me as a listener having original sound does nothing on the receiving end of it. If I got unmuted, it could cause all kinds of havoc because all the filtering's off, if I were to talk or become unmuted or whatnot. So, good question. Anything else for Trevor or Madeline before we transition over to Zoom breakout rooms? All right. Thank you guys so much. All right. So we were talking about, trying to master and really understand the behaviors of breakout rooms, because they're just not the same as the main session, and the options that come along with them and so forth. So with that, and David stepped away, it looks like. He had a day of parent-teacher conferences. So when he gets back, we'll use some of that as a guide as well. But how many of you have or commonly use breakout rooms, and you have any particular lessons learned or challenges that you'd like to kind of run through and so forth? Jason, anything more than just saying, yeah, I use them? All right. All right. Well, David's coming back. So with breakout rooms, it all starts with kind of configuring them up front, right? And so I will let me start by sharing, and then I'm going to go through the options. Okay, so I'm going to start with recreate, because those that are up there, those have been in there for a long time, and so I'm going to start with the recreate. Robert, thanks for joining us as long as you could. But a couple of things. One is paying attention to this options link, which is a small pop-up dialog. And David, chime in, kind of make this a conversation with kind of your day's experience as well. So the first one is, do you want to allow participants to choose a room? Which means, do you want them to be able to walk around from room to room? That's a yes or a no. And if you don't want them to walk from room to room, do you want to at least let them return to the main session at any time? Yeah, so at will. And if you don't want them to do that, then you'll have to push them around, right? And then automatically move all the assigned participants into breakout rooms. That is, we're about to assign some people. We'll define the room names, and then we might assign people to rooms. And per those assignments, when you say open the rooms, do you want it to automatically move those people you've assigned as well? Now, you can pre-assign, and you can on the fly assign as well. But those that are assigned, do you want them to move right the moment you click on open all rooms? And then breakout rooms closing automatically after a certain amount of time. And so if the event or exercise is meant to be time limited, then you can go ahead and set that to where it'll close automatically. And so if you did, let's say we have a 20-minute session, and then notify me when the time is up. If you don't get notified, it is just going to close. If you notify, not only will you be notified that they're about to close, but you'll have the opportunity on that notification to keep them open. So you have that flexibility. And then do you want Zoom to display a countdown after closing the breakout room? And so either the auto close or myself closing it as the host will kick off a timer that says, 10 seconds, 15, 30, 60, or 120 are our choices. So it just gives a little bit of warning. So even though I've said close the breakout rooms or it's done it, it still might have up to 120 seconds with a countdown before they actually have to bail.
And by the way, those settings are persistent from meeting to meeting, which I find terribly annoying, because I may here in the test kitchen turn on, just open breakout rooms for 2 minutes, but then I go into something else and I forget to click that little tiny gear in the bottom left corner, and I get a pop-up 2 minutes later saying, "Do you want to close your breakout rooms?"
You're saying consistent where? Where's the data being stored to be consistent?
Persistent.
Persistent, right? So if I
so persistent across all my meetings because they're my meetings, or because it's my client software that's installed. Where is it being carried over and stored?
That's a good. I don't know the answer to that. Because I only do this from one computer. All I know is that when I open breakout rooms, it's going to keep. So in my last session, it won't work here because it's not my account, but I turned off the time limit. So when I go to create breakout rooms again, that is going to be the default now, that there's no time limit.
Good to know. Good to know. All right. Let's good. Okay, so those are the options. So if anybody has any preferences because you want to check something out, let me know. Otherwise, I'll make some choices under these options. I
usually will check the automatically moved all assigned participants into breakout rooms, just so that it eliminates one more problem of where users can mess it up.
I mean, heck, if you've assigned, 10 people across 10 breakout rooms, that's 100 people you'd have to move if it doesn't automatically do it for you. You already had to assign them all. Now, how do you get them all moved if it doesn't?
Well, yeah, if you don't check that option and you assign them, then as the host or as a co-host with permission, you start the breakout room. What the attendee sees is a little pop-up, and it says you're being asked to join breakout room number 5. Do you agree? Essentially, is what it's looking for, an acknowledgement. And if they miss that, then they get grayed out and they kind of hang in limbo.
Yeah, well, and on the more creative side, if you want to find out who logged in but's not really there, use that option because those are people who have joined the meeting to get certified, but actually just left their computer while it's logged in, and because it's a total giveaway. Because on the breakout room manager screen, you'll see that they never move over to the breakout room, and that just means that dialogue is just sitting on their desktop, not paying attention to it. It used to be really popular that there were just a percentage of people who couldn't join breakout rooms because of their device, their client version, all those things. And it was just something we lived with. Not saying that that's absolutely not the case these days, but it's pretty darn close because Zoom has, implemented only a certain amount of history being supported and the auto update and so forth. And so it's helped that a lot. So, preferences on that checkbox in particular then, Jason? For this case, you say you usually do, but
I usually do, but you do bring up a good point for the people that just log in and let the meter run, so to speak, so they can get their CEUs. That would be a great argument to not check that option for exactly reasons you see. And then usually what I end up doing is after I notice that I've got that scenario, I'll bump them into the waiting room, because when I pull the attendance report later that I have to submit for contact hours and CEUs, it will show when the person logged in and when they left the main room. And when you're using a breakout, it will also show them coming back into the main room. So you get very good time indicators. And for those folks that are just logging in and walking away, it shows, hey, how come they were only in the meeting for 23 minutes?
Yeah. And the other trick on it is end the meeting, right? End of the meeting comes, fade to black, no audio, no video, but don't kill the meeting. Everybody else will leave except those who already left their computer an hour ago, and they'll just sit there and they'll sit there and they'll sit there. And that is kind of, to me, that's like the true attendance taker of those who were kind of a show but a no-show, right? So anyways, I mean, you can't prove it at the end of the day, but you can definitely recognize certain behaviors that are, pretty strong giveaways. Anyway, so I'm going to create these for the sake of, our testing is 3-minute breakout rooms. So they close at 3 minutes. It's going to notify me, and the countdown will pop up with 10 seconds. I won't allow the participants to choose. I'll make the assignment, and I won't automatically move you on this round. And what we do here in the test kitchen is we close them and we'll do it again, and with different options selected and so forth. So everybody gets to feel the behaviors. All right. So then there's these 3 little dots here that, once everything's defined, it's kind of last if you want it. And that is to recreate rooms. So recover to pre-assigned rooms, no, in this case, and or recreate all the rooms. So I'm going to create 3 rooms. The question is, do I want Zoom to automatically assign? And that is, take the entire participants list in this meeting and automatically assign them. So if you look, they couldn't be farther apart from one another, but the top where I said 3 breakout rooms, the very bottom says, well, that equates to 6 participants per room. If I go up to 4, that's 4 to 5. If I go back up to 5, that's kind of weird. Went back down to 3 to 4. But the higher the number you go up top, the lower the number of participants, right? Just divide it out. So I was a little bit late to kicking off the Zoom test kitchen, kind of stressed out because I had a meeting with about 150 people in it that I was running, and she said we'd be done at a quarter after the hour. It ended up being about a quarter of the hour. But needless to say, we do breakout rooms. And, one of my, when her and I get together before the meeting starts, is like, are you going to do breakouts? She's yes. And about how many do you want per room? And, depending on the exercise, she'll tell me, 3 to 4 or 6 to 8. And that all I do is just, it doesn't matter whether I have 900 people in the meeting or 150 people in the meeting, just dial it, right? Now, it does matter if you want 10 people per room and you've got 900 people in the meeting, you have to have already made the submitted ticket to Zoom to ask for the add-on feature called BO100 because the default maximum number of breakout rooms that you can open are 50, and but the BO100 add-on, which is free, is you just have to submit a request for it, and will allow you to create up to 100 breakout rooms. So that would be the only caveat. So assign automatically is just say bust them up. The downside to assign now the assign automatically is it's just going to divvy them up. The downside is we have a few participants in this meeting that we don't want to move, such as my streaming machine, maybe an ISO machine, things like that. And so you can, if that were the case, the streaming machine, the ISO machine, maybe co-hosts you don't want to move, that's the next option. You can still do the assign automatically and then just go pluck them out because you'll have that moment to remove them manually. That might be easier than manually assigning, 300, 400, 500 people to breakout rooms, right? So it can work in you just see which one is going to be, or you can assign manually, or you can just simply open 10 breakout rooms and let people decide where they want to go. And that may be. So David, what did you guys create today? You're muted.
Sorry about that. Just a thought that you just made me think of. It would be nice. It'd be a nice addition to that last option there of letting people choose to be able to put a cap on the number per room.
Yeah.
Right? So that everyone can choose where to go, but I only want 10 people in a room. That would be a nice feature. Yeah. My thing today was really basic. I mean, basically I have 11 classrooms, as it were. And so I came in early this morning. I turned on everyone's iPad. I logged into the meeting. I created 11 breakout rooms. I renamed each of them. I opened all those breakout rooms, but I had it to people could not choose to go in, and they were not automatically assigned. So I would manually assign them. I put each classroom in their iPad in that breakout room. And then I sat here at Command Central, as it were. And as parents came into the main meeting, I was able to, I happen to know all these parents, but if I didn't, I would say, hey, who are you meeting with today? And I had a schedule of who they were meeting with by, it was in 15-minute increments. And then I would put at the time, I would just push them into that room. And I would broadcast messages, 5 minutes left. The one thing I didn't do, which I don't know how I could, to be honest with you, without being very intrusive, is at the end of their scheduled time, pop them out of that meeting, out of that breakout room, to avoid the, two parents being in the room at the same time. I didn't do that. I would just push the new folks in at the appropriate time and hope that the other ones would get the hint. And
that's I've heard this wish before too, and that is to be able to assign and make private, right? So you've got you and me assigned to it, you the teacher, me the parent. Now check it so it's private, so no one else can come, even if the option is they can move to other rooms and so forth. Is how do you make private rooms? And I've done meetings that C-level execs, one per room, sitting there waiting for one of their top dog salespeople to come. It's a privilege, right? But it's also a private meeting.
An extension of that, Jeff, could be if someone's in that room already, you can't get in, but then maybe you go. So let's say I'm in the control room, the main Zoom meeting. I push someone into that breakout room, but it's private. They then are kind of in a green room, as it were. They're kind of in a waiting room
for a breakout room,
right?
Yeah.
And then the maybe I could designate someone in that breakout room to allow them in, or they just, when the one person leaves, then they're automatically shuffled in. This actually sounds a little bit like what's the Zoom app that we had them on?
Twine.
Twine. Sounds a little bit like what Twine can do.
Gotcha. Yeah, we'll have to have them back again. I missed it because you were getting familiar with it, and I missed it, but I definitely, but it's been a while too. So anyways, all right. So I'm still sharing. Oh, I did something, David. Check this out. So if I go to, thank you for the note, by the way, Ray. Like, did you really want to be showing all this? So let's say we're in gallery view. So I was working on my vMix set, and I think let's see, I can go to vMix monitor 2. So now I'm there. And I got the
nice circle
video.
Nice circle, Jeff.
That was like my challenge the other day. I'm like, man, how do you, oops, you don't want to spotlight that.
Wow.
Hello. Let's see if I can find that. There we go. it's, I know how to punch holes, but not only is the hole transparent, the outside of the hole is transparent. You can't spotlight me. And it's like, how do you do that? and David smugly says, well, I just picked the shape in Ecamm. And I'm like, well, I kind of have to, Photoshop or PowerPoint or Keynote, create a black and white slide, and the white is what the camera will come through and the black is what will get Luma keyed out, and away you go. So anyways, now the part that I have to figure out is adding a border to the circle as well. But anyways, it's kind of cool and frightening all at the same time. But anyways, back to it. If I I'll spotlight me again, finish this breakout room setup. We will recreate and go back to the 3. I'll say automatically assign, include the co-host. I'll say not to, because I know because you're a co-host, anybody who is, you'll be able to move anyways. And then I'll say recreate. So this is the part where you say you chose to automatically, make those assignments. This is the result of it. It's random, right? And, in the past, I've seen questions of, can you guarantee randomness when you recreate this next time? As in, those 2 people aren't in the same room again. And the answer is not built into Zoom. You can't. You can create some logic, but then you have to have somebody develop it. I had a kind of a speed dating requirement for a customer way back when, and had Andy and his team create a custom solution for that. But the customer's got to be willing to spend the money and the time and requirement meetings and all that jazz too. All right, so there's our 3 rooms. The options should be the same. Nothing's changed there. Recreate, you can add a room when they're not open yet. And you can as well, you can save the breakout rooms. And so you can save this definition and the people who are in it and so forth. And when you save breakout rooms, it ends up referenceable in next week's meeting. It's a weekly recurring meeting. Mm-hmm. It ends up in the scheduling portion of it in the portal. It is where it becomes visibly usable. I've never used it. I've seen it. First time I saved it, I thought I could find it here, and it's not here. It's back in the portal when you're scheduling a meeting. So with that, you say don't leave yet.
Let me just
right?
chime in on that one if I can. You're correct where it saves it to, but the assignment validates based off of the email address. So next week, if a person comes in and they've logged in twice, or they're using a different email, or they switch from their laptop to their phone, all those kind of variables, then they stay in the main room and they don't go to the pre-assigned. Sure. Because Zoom says, who's this person? They're not checking out. So
if they come in as the same name but used a different Zoom email account that they've associated with Zoom, it won't pick that up.
Not even account.
Email.
Just email address. When you join a meeting or when you're registering for a meeting, or those several times where it prompts the person to enter in an email address. Mm-hmm. So they enter in something different and they won't go to their pre-assigned breakout room.
Good to know. Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, I don't expect it to be the perfect reusable component. I think that's what they've developed it for, because there's just too many variables. It's called every attendee, right? And how they come in and what they change and so forth. it might make your job easier, right? So it takes care of 70% of the audience. You take care of the last 30% and then open them up and away you go. So it certainly can. If you're doing the same thing every week with mostly the same people, saving your breakout room options here, say breakout rooms, can be helpful. And it, say you, it can be helpful. You had 80 people and they were assigned and you saved it, but next week, pretty much the same thing, same company, same group, but the group's only going to be 30 to 40 this time instead of the 80 last time when you hit save. Not a big deal. If they don't show up, they don't show up and they don't get assigned, right? So that's not the end of the world. And on top of that, you don't need so many breakout rooms. Well, yeah, that's possible as well. That's fine. If you roll over these things, you can delete them, you can rename them, you can add more if you want to as well. I mean, it didn't used to be this flexible, that's for sure.
But you can't. But the add more, that's pre launching the meetings.
You can do it while they're open as well.
Yes, but that, if I remember correctly, that's one of those settings in the back end that forces people to upgrade their client.
It used to be, yeah. It may still be, but I almost would think that with their policy of history of version support, I think that feature probably came out earlier than this new policy even. So, but good point. Very super valid when it was first released. Yeah, there were those certain features that forced people. You can either be. There were some things that said you can't get in the meeting. There were others that said you're just not going to have the same experience as everybody else because your version is different. Great points. And then people can get. Not only rooms can be renamed and deleted and added, but people can get moved and or exchanged.
Yeah.
And so you say move to a room, and that's like this this author I was working for prior to today's meeting is she'll say just spread them out 3 to 4 people per breakout room, and so I may end up having 55 breakout rooms depending on the size of the audience that day, and then people trickle in and when they trickle into the meeting, it's like, well, where do you put them? Go to move to, and read this column over on the right side, the number that are already in the room. And if the target was 3 to 4, go find a 2, go find the next 2, then go find a 3. That's how I sort through them real quick. And it's really fast. And it really does give you some really good glancing data to just, make that move. So you move people too. The exchange, on the other hand, if what did I just do? I picked Bobby.
I just want to, can I just jump in real quick? So I just looked up, because I wanted to enable it. So I just looked up the, it still says that if they don't update their client, they won't be able to join.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm hesitant to use some of this.
Well, what version? Mouse over the version V icon there. Yeah. What's it saying it's requiring? 5.9. And what are we on?
We are
13.
We are on
13.8.
5.12. 5.12.9 is the latest. I don't know. I worry about that a little bit.
Yeah. It that really has to be measured out, because now I'm curious on my memory's not clear enough, but Andy was just talking about this at Zoomtopia, even was the historical support policy now. I'd like to see that definition, because I am pretty sure that's probably going to win out over 5.9. Like it won't go back to 5.9, and that's their support policy, which means I would guess the updater's already telling all those people to update, But anyways, exchange is interesting.
What policy do you have set David, on your meetings, because for an example, I used to not. I didn't care if you had like an antique version of Zoom, right? I wanted you to be able to join the meeting. But then because my meetings became like these breakout sessions are, you got to have them. So then I said, okay, then what I'll do is I'll set it up and only support the last 3 versions of Zoom. So you have to update before you can even join the meeting. And then you have like 20 minutes or whatever. We're not going to launch a breakout like right away. You know, you have 5 minutes of banter and shtick or whatever else. 20 minutes maybe before the first breakout. Okay, so even the people that have antiques, they update, they can join. Now there's reasonable assurance that everyone has that functionality like we see here on the screen. Because I do 100 people a week. We do 10 breakouts. We have a schedule of moderators that rotate through. Some people show up, some people don't. You swap people around, whatever, and it just works.
Right. Again, my concern is, and again, maybe it's just either it's just today, or maybe I surround myself with people who aren't very bright. But I'm not convinced at all that lots of people know how to update their client. And so if they're forced to update their client, I'm not at all convinced that they know how to do that. And so then are they going to be excluded from the meeting?
That's like saying they don't know how to click yes on the prompt, because it's an automated driven system these days.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I'm saying, Jeff. They don't know how to press the mute button, for goodness sakes.
Wow.
So I'm just saying that for us, this is all obvious, and it should be obvious for everyone else. I just think that very often, look, what made Zoom so spectacular and so huge was its ease of use. And every time you put even the smallest stumbling block in front of someone, for me at least, it raises the question, is it more important to me, the ease of use or the full functionality? That's all I'm questioning.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in their position, you got the world screaming at you for, let's say, continued simplicity. And they still preach it, but it's becoming less of a reality. It's not like complex, but there's certainly, a threshold of where things, become that. But on the other hand, you've got the other side of the world, education, their number one vertical, and financial and health and so forth, screaming at them for features. And you just can't keep building in features that don't require, database schema upgrades and code upgrades, and which then puts hardware requirement upgrades in place eventually as well. And it's just the natural maturation stage of a program, a software program. And so, yeah, it's tough, and it's getting better every day, over the years, where an older generation, knows how to update and keep, has that concern and so forth. But it's not a perfect world. By the way,
guys, I found the link that actually shows you the oldest one that they will actually support. So that link in the chat.
Cool. Let's show this. I'll show this first, and that is on our Discord channel. Ray Harwood posted. He says, I just confirmed a report by the Zoom community poster that Windows 5.12.9, which is the latest, released on 11/27, will not let you rearrange the gallery. Works in 5.12.8 and earlier. So support ticket on that. That is important to know. I haven't tested it. I haven't upgraded because I saw that post as well, but I'm on .8.
And as far as the upgrades or the updates that Mike, that you just posted, right? Yep. So Zoom client here, right, on is right now they're only mandating 5.8.6. Which means that the vast majority of people who are not opening Zoom all the time are not up to date with 5.9 point anything. They're probably stuck on 5.8.6.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, if they join a meeting that prompts them to upgrade, will that cause a problem? Probably not. Maybe not. And then the next one will be 5.10.3.
There's also an issue with corporate or enterprise clients. So they were previously excluded from roll-ups. They had the manual version control, and that's changed or is in the process of changing. So, for example, I worked with a college where they had to manually roll everyone up. And now all of a sudden it's like, okay, no, now they'll be able. So if I set the last 3 versions only, and there's some machine out there that for whatever reason hadn't gotten updated yet, they no longer have to call IT. Now it'll roll up just like a consumer machine would.
Yeah, I'd be curious, Frank, you're at a university, right? Are you guys, does that make sense what Jason just mentioned? I don't know if Frank's there.
We caught him.
Put him in the waiting room. No CEUs.
Yeah. So there's a release note that is somewhat contextually attached to what you're saying. And one of the features on the Zoom client is that enterprise update policy, right? And this is November 28th. So it was just released. Is this exactly what you were just talking about? Is having that granular control corporately and all. So yeah, they've attended to that really well. There is another feature that we can test sometime on the closed captioning notification. They've changed that, and they've included a base language selection as well. So
yeah, I just was playing with that actually. Let me just check my settings because I thought I told it Spanish just to see if it threw it off. Okay, yeah, I did. So I put it on Spanish, and the closed captions when I speak are coming into Spanish, but when anyone else speaks, they come up English. So this is a case where the labeling, it's not doing what I thought what I thought it meant.
Yeah, it's supposed to be what's the base. I think they said it's supposed to be what the base language of the meeting, isn't it? When
right.
the participant enables closed captioning, they're prompted to select the speaking language that will be used in the meeting. Yeah.
So
the spoken language is changed.
So I know everyone speaks English, but I said, well, what if I tell it Spanish? Okay,
Yeah.
And so,
what
when
if
Jeff speaks, I get English, but when I speak, I get Spanish on my
So my question to you, maybe this is what's happening, is I don't believe that this account that I use for the Zoom Test Kitchen is a Zoom One account. Because there's a difference between kind of the grandfathered Zoom account, even though it's enterprise, there's a Zoom Enterprise and there's a Zoom One Enterprise conversion that has to take place. And I'm assuming it may still be the same case, is that translated captioning required a Zoom One account. And I've never been able to test it because we don't have that. I've talked to Guy to see, if he's, ever going to entertain that, or if it's, small upcharge or whatever. Are you on a Zoom One account? Would be my question.
I am not.
Huh. That's what I was thinking. Maybe you are, because it was doing that for you, but but not for me. So speaking language is that. Hide show, turn it on or off. Yeah, interesting. So anyways, it's supposed to be the listening channel. So
as Spanish on yours, now that I'm looking at your screen share. Hi, my name is Jason. What language is this displaying? It says that's German, I think, right? What do you got on there, Jeff?
I don't know. I mean, my selection over here is my speaking language is selected on English. If I change it to Spanish, now try it again. Yeah, that's Spanish.
That's Spanish. Okay, put it back to English.
But are you guys seeing it?
Yeah, we're getting Spanish. Barack Obama.
You are.
Yeah. So now it's.
But now it's back to English. For me, it's back to English.
Well, but you're speaking English. That's right, why. And you're set to English.
Right.
So yeah, you're telling it. You're telling it what you want to listen to, and it's assuming, oh, well, then when you talk, that's what you'll be talking in as well. And so it takes your language that you want to hear in as your spoken language, which it will translate to everybody else in that language. Is that the deal? I don't know.
Okay, let's think this through. So Jeff speaks English and has set his caption to which language?
I'm on Spanish right now.
Okay, so please set it to English.
English. It's
and
in
so
English
when Jeff
now.
speaks, it should caption in English. Test that out.
Yours definitely didn't. I was waiting for that. But mine is. On my screen, I can see my voice in English in the caption. And what are you selected on your desktop right now?
I am selected as Spanish. So when I'm speaking,
not you speaking, but when I speak, do you see me in Spanish in the caption? You're seeing my captioning in English?
So when Jeff speaks, I see English on mine. And when I'm looking at Jeff's screen share, when Jeff speaks, English. When I speak, I see Spanish on Jeff's screen.
Mm-hmm.
And I also see Spanish on my screen. So I'm speaking English and you get to see Spanish.
This will be another, and this might be because maybe it's not formally supported on our license just the same, and it may just be the consequence of
Robert, if you're watching this recording, this may be a workaround for
you. Yeah, kill your license, roll it back. All right, so the breakout rooms. I was going to do this exchange.
Jeff, I just want to make sure you're aware that it's just after 5. I know you had a hard out.
Yeah, that's East Coast time. So I super appreciate. Right. Yeah, I super appreciate that alarm. And here's the thing: I don't want to miss this either because I'm going downtown Kansas City to film Coach Reed and his wife and his grandkids, and so to be able to meet and video. Reed, the coach of the Chiefs, is going to be kind of cool. But I still have time.
I am going to jump, so have a good weekend.
Pack up some gear. All right, David, take care, bud. There's the move to, and then there's an exchange. Well, what's exchange? It's kind of like, is it person for person or room for room? And it's room for room. It's not two different people. It's room for room, but it's a pull. So you got to recognize when you click on exchange, in what room are you doing that? That's the deal. It's like, so Frank is assigned in room 1 and I click on exchange. And so with that, I'm going to select Dirk. And so Dirk ends up in room 1 and Frank gets sent to where Dirk came from. And so they get swapped from, in this case, room 1 to room 2 and vice versa. So it is a people swap, room swap, but it begins with just the first person the first person of the pair that you want to change spaces in. So if you have speakers who need to move, I don't know that this is really I don't know. I mean, my use cases, I can apply this to, room moderators or speakers faster than I can do it with attendees, but, hard to call. If it's there and you're quick at it and you had to kind of rotate people, you wish it would rotate like this. You can't built into Zoom. You could organize it with, some coordinated, well-planned swaps and make some changes fairly swiftly.
So is that the answer for David's breakout problem?
It could be, as far as I think we'd have to go test it, because is it more powerful to force that change that he said, and once they're here I can't pull them back and so forth. You have to bounce them to this one to then get them to that one. The exchange might be, at least maybe it might be a little faster to bounce them to and fro, but I think it would be a matter of us digging and just testing like we've done.
And just to clarify, his issue is that if a parent runs over their allotted time and the next parent shows up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm curious, does he use a timer? Is there hey, your time's up? And
I would imagine, it's parent-teacher conferences, and so, I mean, I would only guess now that he's gone that, we can't get exactly the answer, but parent-teacher conferences are usually blocks of time that everybody's aware of, So you had this 15-minute block and so forth, and so.
Yeah, Jeff, what I would have suggested to Dave, not realizing that that's sort of what you guys were talking about, I would have actually said to not have so much the room be the concern at that particular point. I would actually have, the next parent that comes in, assign them to a room, and then be moving the teachers around to each room, instead of, once that teacher is, and then you don't have a timeout on that room. Mm-hmm. Once they are finished their meeting, the teacher would just have to ping David, okay, I'm done, move me to my next appointment, right? And then you could always have something for that parent in that room. David could just have something going on, music, whatever, in that in that breakout room, as a please wait, teachers, in a meeting type scenario. It sort of would mimic more what happens at teacher parent meetings, where the forever teachers will go along with the previous parent, and the parents are used to sitting, waiting out in the hall type scenario before they're allowed to go in the room and stuff. So that would be sort of, having two rooms for that one teacher and having that teacher just bounce back and forth from room A to room B.
You'd have more than two, right? So if he currently sets up 5, I would suggest set up 7 so that you've got 2 extra ones. And then, you move the teacher around, and even if you have the parent that's slow to log off or whatever, eventually they're going to disappear, and then that opens up another room for the next person to come in and wait.
Right, like you were showing, Jeff, where you actually can see how many people are in the room, right?
So a while back, not that I intended on going here, but I recorded this demo June 21. So this is around the time Andy and I worked on this project. Andy's team developed this, and it was I've called it the speed dating application. It was actually the C levels meeting individually with one sales exec at a time, but they had to rotate. So the C levels stayed put in their rooms, and then we took this first, let's say, group of 10 sales folks. Every once in a while there would be a pair, but we'd rotate them until they got to see each one of those C levels, and then we could go through the next group if we needed to as well. But just the basic layout was, the timing, how many execs, how many breakouts, and then the definition. So it polled the Zoom meeting to get the names of the execs, get the names of the sellers, and we'd have to, sort this, but it would pull the entire list out of the meeting on both columns, and then we'd zap the non-execs and we'd zap the salespeople, and we'd end up with an execs and a sales list. And at that point, we'd create the breakouts based on the numbers. It would calculate how many breakouts. We'd create them. We'd then assign the executives one per breakout. Then we'd open the breakouts, and then we'd send the sellers. And then the clock would start, and we'd rotate. The clock would start. We'd rotate, and you'd just see it moving over here. It was awesome. Let's see if I can start. This is a video. I mean, we recorded it in action, but and they're called pods just because they were machines and stuff instead of people at the end of the day. But here's a moment when the breakouts are all there. There's an executive per breakout. Let me see if I can just speed this up a little bit. Where's the speed? Speed faster. There we go. And we just watch the breakout manager screen over here, sending the sellers now. So it's sending a seller per to go visit with the execs. And you see the timers running over here, 4 minutes.
Jeff, did they see that clock in the room?
No. This was just our back end tool.
Right, because I think David's major concern was cutting off the room too soon before the parent and teacher were done. Jason, am I remembering that?
Right. What detail I don't know is, if you've got 5 minutes and there's a countdown clock that's visible in the breakout room, which there is. Now, parents show up late, the conversation gets extended. So what are the details around that?
And the other thing today that wasn't available, when we did that solution last year, is we can now broadcast into all breakout rooms.
Yeah.
And so we could do an announcement, this meeting will end or rotation will begin in 30 seconds, and it could take care of that pretty easily too. And or you could share, right? Because maybe they could talk. Share would be a little bit intrusive, right? But you could share with the clock. But I think
play some music and be like, like the award show. The music's playing.
That's right. So, anyways, I mean, there's it's like how much can you do in Zoom with Zoom, and the answer is a lot more now than we used to be able to. And when you go beyond those barriers with your requirements or wish list, then with teams like Andy and companies that do that, you can extend the power of it by developing a solution. That was all leveraging Zoom OSC and Isadora, and it ended up. I mean, it went off without a hitch. It was amazing how well it went and the whole bit. But it was good stuff. So, anyways, I feel like, God, it's taken forever to get here with breakout rooms, and we need more live faces than just us three to get kind of a decent, test and feedback of multiple breakout rooms, and but there's so many things to go over. What privileges don't you have here that you do have there, and let's cure a couple. And that is, let me create. I'm gonna create a breakout room, and I'm gonna send both of you to it. You're gonna do it with your mic unmuted and your video on first. Then you're gonna come back. Then we'll mute you and turn off your video, and then go, and you'll report back whether it stayed in that state. If it did, could you turn them on? All those things too. So just those are like essential, right? Like everybody's got to be able to potentially talk and be seen. And so let's see how it treats that. So let me let me kill some of these breakout rooms. Just going to narrow it down. There's one breakout room. One breakout room. Assign manually. Recreate. Okay. Assign. Mike. And Jason. All right. I'm going to stay here. You're both assigned to room 1. The options are allow participants to choose. I'll let you choose there. You can return anytime. Move when I open them will happen. Breakout room will close at 1 minute with a 10-second countdown. All right, so that's easy enough. I'll open them and we'll see you in a moment. All right, so for the YouTube archives, you can see that they're talking. These didn't used to be there. There's icons that, if I share the screen real quick. Oh, and I can also broadcast. Hey guys, can you hear me in the breakout room? If I share while they're there, you can see what I was talking about. So the breakout room manager has the icons for the microphone and the video camera. So you can see that the mic is on and active, and the video cameras are on and active as well. So there's my pop-up warning that I asked for, and I can either extend it, keep them open, or close now, and then it will give that 10-second countdown that I configured, and then they'll roll back into the main session. Then we'll get a report. Here they come. All right.
Hello. And I have to turn my original sound on again. All right.
Yeah, exactly.
So your original sound turned off. So your microphone stayed on. Did you arrive with your mic muted or unmuted?
Unmuted.
Unmuted.
But original sound went off.
Okay, but the original sound got turned off. Video was on when you left. Was it on when you got there?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. And did you hear me broadcast audio?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, so and
we saw the option. We could choose breakout rooms. Like we had that.
I did. I configured that on this one.
Okay.
To let you.
Yeah.
So
we saw that, and my pop-up when I saw the countdown and it went to 0 before the big box came in the middle, I saw it at the top, time remaining. The top right.
Oh, the whole time?
Yes.
Yes.
So you saw the 1 minute countdown.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then, okay, cool. That's good to know.
Yeah, in the upper right-hand corner. And then when the time hit 0, then Jeff got the pop-up on his screen that said, your time's up. Do you want to close the rooms?
Yeah, keep them open or close now. Yeah.
And then when he acknowledged that, then we got a pop-up front and center.
For 10 seconds.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep, cool. All right, so allow participants to choose, return anytime, automatically move.
Yeah, so
everything
Jeff,
there stays the same. Yep.
Yeah, so Jeff, just to let you know, so you know where we have our 2-hour, 16-minute clock? That's where it showed. The remaining was right beside that.
Oh, so you had 2 clocks. So you had the whole meeting time clock and then the breakout room time clock.
Yep.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to assign you again, Jason and Mike.
And will you share your settings so that it captures all this in the recording?
Yeah, I did while you guys were in there. It's a good point. I'll do it again just in case. But while you were in there, I shared for YouTube, and I talked about the microphone icon, the video icon. We could tell from those status icons that that your guys' cameras and mics were on.
Cool.
And, so I'm sharing now again. I'll zoom in one more time. Yeah, that Zoom works. All right, so the options one more time for review. That's the options going in. Allow participants to choose a room. I'm fine with that because you are who you are. Participants, you can return to the main session anytime you want. Automatically move you when I open them, yeah. And then that 1 minute breakout time and then 10 seconds on the final deal. And then I'll tell it to recreate. Oh, I already did that. That was the recreate. I'll say, oh, you know what? I'm going to close those. Sorry. I'm going to pull them right back for everybody out there on YouTube. I screwed up. They're gonna go, what the heck was that all about? All right, sorry about that. I wanted you to mute now and turn your camera off now, and then report back to us how you arrived in the breakout room, on or off, muted or unmuted. You're muted, Jason.
So I was I came back into the main room muted. I did not manually mute myself.
No,
that was
no.
automatic.
I clicked open rooms and I go, oh crap, boom, I closed them right away. So it was 10-second countdown and then sucked you back in.
So Zoom closed my audio channel when I came back into the main room because the setting mute participants upon entry that you have as a host.
Yeah.
That affects that. So if you had,
I'll actually challenge that.
Okay.
And let's just tee it up for one of our next tests. Is one of the next tests will be, so you're going to report to us. You're going to go video black, audio mute, and then I'm going to send you to the breakouts. Report how did you arrive? Was your video on or still off? And were you muted or unmuted? And then when you come back, now we didn't talk about it, but you said you came back muted, camera was on. And so do me a favor here on this send, when you get there, recognize how you got there with the states of your video and audio. Then if you can confirm before you come back, one of your video is on and one of your video is off, before you get pulled back to the main session to see if Zoom by itself changes either one of those. And because it definitely mutes you right now coming back to the main session. And then our next test, final test, will be I will stop muting upon entry by policy, if you will. Mm-hmm. And I'll have you come back again. I'm going to put a nickel on it will still mute you.
There are 3 settings that affect that. You have mute upon entry, you have enable participants to unmute themselves, and then there's one enable participants to turn on their video camera. Yep. And depending upon what the host has checked, enabled, not checked, then that determines the functionality when the people come back from the breakout room for sure, but also whether they're able to unlock themselves, unmute themselves in the breakout room.
Well, so right now, I'm assuming you guys have been able to talk while you were there, right?
Yep.
And so to your point, right now in my meeting is allow participants to unmute themselves and start video. So we can kind of do this both ways. We've got that test coming back to the main session. Then when you get back here, I'm going to not allow you to turn your video on or unmute yourself. And then I'm going to send you to the breakout room and see if you are deemed helpless and can't talk or be seen, or does it ignore the policies in the main room in that case? These, I'm telling you, I mean, I need a documenter, because I don't think you can find all this, but practice will have it. So,
user acceptance testing script.
Yeah, it basically kind of comes down to if this, then that. If this, then that.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just knowing, that's the thing. All right, so go ahead and mute yourself and turn your video off, and then I'll open this room one more time. Okay, here we go. I'm going to share so everybody out there can see it too. All right, their videos are off. They're muted, and I'm going to open the room. And they are going to end up in those two rooms. Mike is there. Now Jason is there. Both their video and microphones were off upon arrival, but I can see that Mike has unmuted and turned his video camera on. Jason has unmuted, but not turned his camera on. And that might be by choice because I asked one of them to come back video muted to see what happens there. So now I'm going to close the rooms. They get that 10-second countdown, and then they'll be back. Mike's camera is now muted, I can see, and Jason's is on. They were both unmuted on their audio. All right. So Jason is back. His video is on. He left the breakout room with it on, where Mike, where's Mike? Oh, there he is. He's at the bottom of my screen. Mike came back, and he left with a camera off. He arrived with his camera off. He left unmuted, as did Jason, but they arrived muted. Now, we have a policy in the main session that says, mute upon arrival as well. So now Frank is back. Hi, Frank. And so we can do this again, but I'm going to change some policies here. I'm going to say allow participants to start video. No. And unmute themselves. No. So now you can't unmute and you can't turn on your video if it's off right now. If it's on, it doesn't shut you off.
And if the host mutes, so Jeff, mute me.
Yeah, if I mute you, you will not be able to unmute yourself. Yeah, and I can ask you to unmute, and now because I asked and you respond, now you can unmute yourself. I don't have to give everybody access to unmute just to allow somebody to unmute. I can, if I have that shutdown policy, like that meeting I was talking about earlier, where I have hundreds of people in a single meeting, I don't let anybody unmute. But it's also a meeting where this well-known author wants to spotlight side by side with people who have questions. So they raise their hand, and I click ask to unmute, add spotlight. By the time they get added, they've responded to my request and they're unmuted. I didn't have to unlock the muting to the entire meeting, which is super undesirable.
Yeah,
and,
that's good.
And so that works well. So now one more policy thing under the participants window will confirm. It says mute participants upon entry. I'm unchecking that. So I'm not muting participants on entry.
Mm-hmm.
I am not allowing you to unmute yourself.
Jeff,
and I'm
let's allow unmute and allow start video. And because what I think
just
will
see
happen
see if it's the entry versus the policy.
Right. So when Mike and I come back into the main room, leaving the breakout room with our mic channels open, we should be open in the main room, just based off of that one toggle setting.
Just the one toggle. Yep. Okay. Here we go. Bye. Okay, there they go. Breakout room management screen. Their videos are on. Their microphones are on. That's all good. I'm going to close all rooms. Countdown. I bet they come back muted.
And here we are back in the main room.
There you go.
And totally open.
Cool.
And totally open.
Yeah, video on and unmute. I'm glad because I actually said I bet they come back muted. So just that one switch on the re-entry from breakouts can allow them. Now, you might think that's freedom. I call it hell.
Right.
Because having 50 breakout rooms all come back at the same time and potentially be unmuted is not a desirable result, right? So super important. Not only does that, upon entry mean when they sign on the first time, it's anytime they come back from a breakout room as well. So
yeah, that label really does mean upon entry into the main room.
Yeah.
Anytime
to the main
that's
room.
applicable.
However, wherever they came from. Yeah, no, that's good stuff. All right, good.
So now if you don't allow us to unmute and don't allow us to turn on camera.
I'm gonna undo those as well. So you don't have the privilege to unmute or turn on your camera, but I'm not forcing you to be muted upon entry.
Correct.
So will you still?
So if I mute
will
myself,
you still arrive unmuted, and then the policy, like if you mute yourself or I mute you, will it then lock? That's what I'm interested in seeing.
Yeah. So I'm going to mute myself, and what I suspect will happen is that. Let me just double check. Yes. Okay. So what I expect is that I mute myself. I go into the breakout room. I can't unmute. I come back into the main room and I'm still not able to unmute. That's what I suspect.
So you're saying so what you're really saying is the permissions in the main room, which are restrictive right now, I've made them restrictive. You can't unmute, you can't turn on your video. Now that those are restrictive in the main, that those restrictions will carry with you into the breakout room.
That's what I suspect. So I'm going to mute myself now.
Keep your video on since it's on, but mute your audio and see how it carries over and then how it comes back.
Yeah, and Jeff, what did you want me to do? Stay as is?
Well, why don't you just do the opposite, where Jason's going to keep his video on but mute himself? Why don't you turn your video off but stay unmuted?
Okay, yeah.
All right. Okay, here we go. Frank, you want to join him or just watch like you're doing? Now you can't unmute. You gave me the power to unmute you. Now you can talk to me. Oh, now I got to make you get dressed. All right. Hey, do you want to travel to and fro, or do you just want to witness? Okay. All right, here we go. All right. Looks like they arrived the same. Lotta has his mic on, but video off. Jason arrived with his muted audio, but camera on. But they both, one of them who arrived muted was able to unmute himself, and the other one who arrived with no video was able to turn on his video, which they don't have the rights to do in the main session. So the turning on privileges didn't carry into the breakout room, because if they would have, I've taken away their ability to unmute and start video, and they both just did that in the breakout rooms. So I'm going to close the rooms. We'll confirm that by hearing their feedback. Now Jason is muted but has video, and just the opposite for Mike. All right, so they are back. Now they're going to be restricted. That is, I didn't change anything on entry because I allow
Jeff, are you hearing me or no?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So my mute participants upon entry is not checked, and that we did that on the last exercise as well.
Okay.
The security says you can't unmute yourself, but you arrived unmuted, right, Mike? You were unmuted when the breakout room closed, and you remained unmuted when you arrived.
And I purposely
even though I don't allow you, and your video was off, and you can't turn your video on right now.
Correct. Yeah. You cannot start your video because the host has stopped it.
Yeah, correct. So, so now if I mute you, now you won't be able to unmute or turn your video on. I'll just give that a few seconds to prove that that's correct. So now I'm going to unmute them. And as a host, I can...
you can. If you can hear me, Jeff, I'm back.
Yeah, I can hear you.
You're right. I got the same message, just opposite. I cannot. Host has forbidden me to audio unmute.
Oh yeah. This brings up another thing. So I can unmute you because in my meeting configuration, let me get Jason back in here. Hang on.
Yeah, I think I might have given you permission if that's what you're asking me.
Yeah, you did.
And I did not give permission.
Jason's on audio. You guys can both start your video now, so we can just have a discussion.
Yep, back.
And so the way you left was the way you arrived. Now you would have come in, Mike, muted had I had that policy in place to mute upon entry, but I removed that. So you carried over. That was good.
Yeah.
I think the big lesson here is, even though you were restricted in the main room, you could not unmute, you could not turn your video on. One of you had your video off, one of you had your video on, one of you had your audio off, one of you had your audio on. So we get all those combinations. When you arrived, both of you could turn on both things, right? You could both unmute yourself. You could both turn on your video. So that restriction went away in the breakout room. Okay, so there's no respect for that as far as like carryover restrictions into that. So then when you came back, mute on entry was off. Therefore, everything remained the same. I could unmute Mike once I muted him, because during his joining of our session, who knows how many weeks or months ago, I say, ask people if they'll allow the host to unmute you. He said yes, and it only takes doing that once in my meetings, and I'll always have the right to do that, unless he removes me from his list of kind of whitelist, if you will, which lives on his computer. Otherwise, it's a request to unmute, which we've talked about before, and I could do that. But while my allow participants to turn video on is turned off, right? So nobody can turn on their video, where I could request you to unmute, I cannot request you to turn your video on when that policy is in place. So when you can't unmute your audio policies in place, I can still override that. When you can't turn on your video policies in place, I can't override that. I have to turn that on for everybody in order for somebody to turn their video back on, which I don't know. I can't put my head together of why that decision would be made, but it is, because the chat. I mean, kind of real world application is we have a large meeting like this gal I work with, and we have 900 plus people in a single meeting, and it is interactive. Like, not the whole time, but after the presentation's done, then it's totally interactive. Two spotlights at a time probably. And so I've got to be able to see people, right? And so it can't be a webinar. I'm not going to promote people to be a panelist. That's like a leave one meeting, join another type experience, right? It's not fast. And so, so it has to be a meeting, but the objective during the presentation stage, which is, let's say first half an hour, is how close can I make a meeting to be a webinar until we're finished with the presentation portion of that meeting, and now we need to become interactive.
I do the same thing.
Yeah.
But I run it in focus mode and I use spotlighting. So, in focus mode, then the participant only sees what I, as the host, put up on their screen via spotlighting.
Well,
but I can see everyone else in my gallery.
Focus mode is really, quite a bit of the answer, because focus mode, it's not brand new, but it's new as of this year, early this year, right? And prior to that is don't allow people to turn the cameras on. Well, focus mode allows you to let them turn their cameras on, and to a great degree, they can even be inappropriate for all we care. Only the host is going to be offended, because they're the only ones who sees everybody's videos that are on, which is pretty ideal.
Co-host.
And
when
co-host,
they switch to gallery view.
Co-hosts and hosts see everybody's videos that are on, but they the audience only sees what we have spotlit, and so it is a real happy medium there.
Jeff, Jeff, I'm curious. The author in that meeting that you speak about, are you actually making her a co-host or no?
I don't, for any good reason, but she comes in. So I sign in with her Zoom credentials, because I start the meeting early, get things all set up, and then she comes in and we connect and get things finished up. But she signs in with her account as well. And so when she does that, then I've just let her know, make sure you don't claim host. You just say you want to stay co-host. And so she comes in as co-host. So I've never been, she's not like, illiterate to the usage of Zoom. And so if I were to, get disconnected or whatnot abruptly, then her meeting would still be on. She could still present and so forth.
Right. But I guess, so my use case is I speak with churches on a weekly basis. And what I would love to do more with them, because it has been a complaint of them using Zoom, and again, complaint in quotation marks. It's not really a complaint. It's just lack of knowledge, which is they don't actually by default use focus mode, which I'm going to explain to them that they should going forward, because actually this is the first time I've actually heard about it. So this is good. I'm glad I'm learning that. But with the next thing that I would actually, because they do a lot of after church finishes, they'd like to have like a public gathering in Zoom where they would want it to be, carte blanche, or even get into breakout rooms or such happening post, service happening. So this is where focus would be focused based on the church service, and everybody would be muted. Focus does mute everybody by default, or no?
No, it's not an audio feature. It's a video feature. So you would want to make sure that mute upon entry is appropriately set. Not being able to unmute is appropriately set, and then enable focus mode. And because focus mode is a video thing. That's interesting. I got asked that last week by somebody too. I don't know if it was here, but somebody asked me that. But I've been asked about the audio tie twice in a week, which makes you wonder. It's like, should you be able to? Maybe so. I don't know.
Or have it as an option. When you go into focus mode, would you like audio everybody to be muted, or who do you not want to be unmuted, or want to be still left?
No, it's 2 clicks currently, and the focus mode you can launch that on the fly anytime during the meeting. You can also select it when you're building your meeting, you're scheduling your meeting.
You can tell it to start the meeting.
You can start it in focus mode. And then on your audio channel, you're just writing the, mute all or request to unmute. You're just writing those buttons. There's also in the scheduler, and I think on the fly too, there's allow participants to start video when joining the meeting. So Mike, for your example, what you might want to do is you say, okay, best practice, when we're scheduling our gathering, we're going to start in focus mode. We will allow folks to join with their camera on. And we're going to mute upon entry. You do your 30 or 45 minute, worship service on stage where you're running focus mode and the participants are only seeing what you're spotlighting. That's all that they're going to see, and they're only going to hear what you mute and unmute as a host. You're running gallery view. You could see everybody there. Then when worship time's over and it's fellowship time, you turn off focus mode. They get a little pop-up on their screen that lets them know that their video's live. Everyone can see them. And anyone who switches into gallery view will now see anyone who's transmitting.
Okay, so it actually doesn't even allow you to go into gallery in focus mode at all.
As a host, you can, but as the participant, no, they are in speaker view.
No, that's not locked. I don't think that's locked. I think they see name labels. They just don't see video. So I'm going to start focus mode.
Okay.
All right. So I see everybody here, and I see name labels. Yeah, but you should see me because I'm spotlit, and yourself.
Yeah.
Right. But you should. I think you see everybody else.
Yeah, everybody else's names, including Jason's names. Yeah.
Now, unless you have the option selected that says hide non-video users, then you won't see those.
Right. If I go up to the view and do that. Yeah. Got it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And if you hide self-view, then obviously you don't see yourself either.
Correct.
Right. Got it. Yeah. But it does actually say meeting is in focus mode. Only host and co-host can see your video.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if I'll add a spotlight. Now you see two.
Yeah.
Add a spotlight. Add a spotlight. This is the end because I only have 4. but that's what the world sees. I mean, if there's hundreds of people in the meeting, that's all they'll see. Now they'll see the names of the others, but there's no one else can.
And this affects the cloud
but keep it
recording.
Here's the magic of it. They can see everybody's names, but not their video, but not because their videos are turned off, or that I've limited them from turning them on. That I can say, hey, turn on your video all day long, and they can turn it on, but no one will see it except themselves and or everybody if I spotlight them. And so it's kind of cool in the sense that you don't have to manage every device and get that global effect. And it was an educational move, I'm sure, with students and so forth. So yeah, Frank.
I have to be careful what I say. I went to a special meeting with Zoom about focus mode, and they showed me what is coming with focus mode, and it's quite amazing, really impressive. One of the things I can say is we put in a feature request for the names to be an option to either be seen or not seen. We would like the option for focus mode to be so stealthy that participants can't even see each other's names if we decide that that's something we want to do for a particular meeting.
Yeah. So I mean, but that request carries over in breakout rooms, gallery view, participants list, right? I mean, those 3 that I can think of right off the top of my head. But to take,
so Jeff,
then literally it looks like there's 2 people in your meeting, right? Because there's only 2 speakers that are spotlit.
Yeah, right now I'm seeing gallery view, but I'm only seeing you and I.
Yeah, that's same.
Yeah, well, that's because you are not showing non-video users.
No,
well, no. But I'm not seeing Frank or Jason if their video is on right now.
My video is on.
Mine's
You're
on
not
as well.
seeing because we're in focus mode.
You're not. Did I remove all the spotlights? Let me check here.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that must.
Yeah,
sorry,
I removed all the. I removed all the spotlights,
no,
so you can only see.
I was just checking out gallery. Sorry.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll get in trouble for this, but when they release the new focus mode, it is so impressive. I couldn't believe how much development they put into it. It's very
awesome.
impressive.
That's really good to hear. Well, and that's super promising in the sense that, being able to, get closer to mimicking a webinar type deal. And
Right.
it's really about transitioning from this theater deliverable mode to a party mode, all in the same meeting. And
yeah, because that's the biggest thing that I know the churches want more, because they usually just leave it in, some of them will actually spotlight. Some of them don't even get to the point of even spotlighting the main feed in the sanctuary. So,
yep.
But at least if somebody did at least spotlight the sanctuary, in focus mode, it would,
yeah.
That would
Well, and if you keep in mind, if if you didn't allow video to be turned on, that's one cure. But you don't have to spotlight. Here's the thing. I think you have to have 3 videos on to be able to execute your first spotlight. Like if there's only 2, you can't spotlight one of 2, but you can spotlight one of 3. Now, that second and third person can actually leave, and I'll stay spotlit. Even by menu option, it'll say I can still remove the spotlight even though they're gone. Now, I don't know for sure if I could re-spotlight myself, but there's no reason to, right? But the other thing is, if you have like focus mode and you haven't spotlit anybody, you're going to be the only active speaker as well, as far as like the chapel feed, that'll go out. So it's like a Swiss Army knife now, to a degree. There's several combinations to accomplish, similar results. Pick your favorite.
Right.
And the focus mode affects the cloud recording too. So how we were usually running a local recording in order to get the fixed layout that we want.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like that now in the cloud recording because of focus mode. It's still a little different, but it's close enough to where I've close enough to where I've let it fly and released it out. Like, here, watch this one.
I had some conversations at Zoomtopia, and one of the big presses inside, like with production studio, being developed, for these custom layouts and so forth, inside of Zoom and other features that are, visual. The concern is, but is it going to stream that way? Is it going to record that way? And I can tell you that the press from the development team down is like, absolutely, like this isn't going to get released with some funky ass stream or record based on, what was live. And so they've tightened the reins on that requirement a lot. So that's good news.
Jeff, did they happen to tell you if Production Studios is going to be its own app, or is it going to be in the client, or did they? Or
I think it'll be built in. I mean, I didn't hear any reference to being a separate product. I think it'll be an option, but I don't know that for sure. I heard no inklings of external, so I'm going to take that as
you'll just need a Zoom events license or something.
Oh, everybody needs a Zoom events license. Yeah, everybody. If you want to run webinar, you need a Zoom events license. It's interesting. It's a press. They've sunk a crap ton of money and time into, developing Zoom events. And so, I get the press, but the fact is, if you have to have this, the required this that you didn't really want anyways better be smaller than the item you're buying, right? And that's not exactly it. I mean, I need a raisin, but they're making me buy a grapefruit, you know? I mean, that's like, you need a Zoom events license. And that's how the brain processes it. I need something really big just so I can use this thing that's apparently small, you know, in comparison. So, you know, I think it's more of a human thing than anything else. I mean, the cost isn't, you know, it's negligible for companies, but, and you don't even have to use it. Like, you don't have to use it in the one that's inside Zoom events. We just need to know that you have a license. Well, slap me silly, right? I mean, that's another human thing that just pisses the human population off. Whether it's, you know, a big price thing, money thing or not, it's just the principle, you know. So, and it's like, well, apparently functionally, there's not a requirement. It's just, I've been told I have to. And so, yeah, those are tough. But, you know, all those little hiccups, they've all the ones previously have gone away, you know. I mean, they eventually work their way out and, you know, things smooth out and they're well understood. And I don't think not very many things that, you know, really kind of upset the cart stick around for all that long. So hopefully that'll be the same case here. Well, guys, I got to go. I got to pack my photo bag and lights and get downtown and finish all that.
Opportunity.
But yeah, it'll be fun. It'd be good. They're really good people. I met his wife a few weeks ago, but haven't met him personally.
You going to take a selfie and bring it back to Zoom Test Kitchen?
Only if he offers it. Like, I am so not a celeb dog, you know, like, oh, can I? I don't have it in me to do that, you know? I you know, I just think
that's
like
the crew guy in you.
I get fired for that if I'm on a crew and do that. And the other is even prior to doing that kind of work, I don't slobber over anybody, you know? I mean, I don't care how big and famous and so forth they are. I just don't ooh and ah, you know? I mean, they got up off the same edge of a bed that I did and used the same kind of bathroom, and they're just human, just like I am, you know? So they just have a different job. So and I don't treat them at all like they're unimportant or unknown. I just don't feel like it's right to make
There's got to be somebody
uncomfortable, you know.
There must be one person that you would get really excited to meet, though.
You know, I've thought about that.
Open a poll.
Really, it's like who would it be? It wouldn't be the president, that's for sure.
Don't tell us. It'll be a Zoom Test Kitchen poll or game or something.
Yeah. That's actually pretty
Facebook
good.
poll. Facebook poll on the Zoom Test Kitchen.
Whom would Jeff oogle over?
Who would I oogle over? She'd probably be pretty hot.
Alive or dead. It doesn't matter if they're alive or dead. You've got all of history to choose from.
Good caveat, Frank.
That's the one that would probably make me look like a stupid little boy. Anyways, I better go before I get in trouble. I think my wife's outside the door.
Have fun,
always
Jeff.
good fun hanging out and learning more stuff, and go share it with others. And you got to figure out which button I'm going to push. All right.
What's this Discord thing I keep hearing about?
Did you sign up for it?
Yeah, I'm the one who asked you to start promoting it in the meeting.
And I put it on the invitations, and then I realized the link I put on there was an expiring invitation link. But today on the invitation, I updated that to a non-expiring invitation link. So
I double-checked your link today on Discord. It worked, Jeff. No issues.
Everyone come to the Discord.
I'm
we need more
there,
people.
But I just double-checked it.
I know. No, you're absolutely right. And I actually am working pretty hard on, like, with the titles on the YouTube videos.
That's awesome.
And just trying to, make it more useful and more attractive, and just a great source of knowledge. I mean, heck, we've got, I started YouTube like a year after, and I used to only do Facebook, and those archives are worthless to, get it, especially in a private group. I mean, you don't get any exposure at all, with the exception of that particular group. So I want to kind of, broaden the horizon. So yeah, I appreciate your recommendations. And if you have any others, because I tell you, the marketing side of the world is not my super strength. I mean, I can do technical, detailed troubleshooting. I was in IT for years.
I just think you should mention the Discord at the beginning and end of every show, and maybe have a lower third or something you put up on your mix.
You're right.
Drive some traffic there.
In my pre-roll slides,
something
instead of the outdated Jonathan and Andy one that keeps rolling.
It's such a nice resource you built. It's just it'd be nice to have more conversations happening there.
Quiet. It is, yeah. No, couldn't agree more. Well, you guys have a great weekend, and we'll look to see you next week. All right, take care.
Bye, guys.
Bye.